Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes, and you're watching Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James, and today I am unhauling every single book that I own that happens to be in this pile. Look at how big that thing is. Anyway, I saw that my very close competition on Booktube, Jack Edwards, uh, posted something today, I think, called Unhauling Every Book That I Own, in which he unhauled significantly less than every book that he owns. But it made me think maybe I'll do a little unhauling myself. Also, you saw how many books I bought at Piedmont Books last weekend. I gotta make some space on these shelves. So I'm just gonna show you a few things that I am moving on. This one, it's a book that I got in Oxford World Classics, and I don't need two of them, especially since I've never read it. I don't even know if I like it. The Life of Johnson by Boswell. I mean, this is the kind of thing that's right up my alley, but I definitely don't need two of them. This is the Modern Library Edition, and I really like Modern Library Editions. Watch, this is where James talks himself out of unhauling books live on YouTube. Not live, you know what I mean. Really like these modern libraries, but the giant ones I'm not as into as the little square dealies. Those are really cool. Anyway, moving this on, probably. Also, I'm going to unhaul this Barnes& Noble Classics edition of Les Miserables. Not because I have another copy, not because I don't like it or don't think I'll read it anytime soon. I think I might try and join that upcoming Classics and Company read of Les Miserables. But this is an abridged edition. I mean, if you're gonna get into Les Miserables, why do you want to be like, I only want to read like 850 pages. I don't want to read those other 200 pages. That's just gonna slow me. Look, in for a penny, in for a pound, I say, or in for a pound and 5 cents. You may as well read the whole thing. I say, take it from me, the guy who's never read Les Miserables. You want to read the whole thing. Here's a book I have read. Didn't get much out of it. Well, I mean, it was okay, but it gave me the feeling of having a hangover the entire time I had it. Every time I see it on the bookshelf, I feel like I get a low grade headache. Um, Under the Volcano. This also has a really weird blurb on it, if I remember right. Here it is, from the Los Angeles Times. Lowry's masterpiece has a claim to being regarded as one of the 10 most consequential works of fiction produced in the 20th century. It has a claim to being regarded as one of the 10 most consequential works of fiction. What were the consequences of this book? Anyone? I don't know what the consequences were. If you like this book, I think that's fine. My friend Libro Paradiso, he is a fan of this book, and I think that's cool. I don't get it. I mean I think I get it, but I don't like it, and I'm not gonna read it again. I there's there's an interesting podcast called the Anthony Burgess Foundation Podcast. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, Burgess produced one of these books, a book about books called 99 Novels, in which he wrote little essays about what he thought were the 99 most important novels written since the start of the Second World War. And it had Finnegans Wake, and it had Dance to the Music of Time, and it has Invisible Man, and it has Under the Volcano. So the International Anthony Burgess Foundation has a podcast in which they talk about each of these novels in turn, and they invite on a scholar or a writer who specializes in the book in question. They did one on Under the Volcano recently because this was one of Burgess's picks. And even the guy who was a specialist in it said while he was rereading this book to be on the podcast, he got very impatient with it. The guy who's the specialist in this book couldn't stand to read this book again. Anyway, I'm sorry to rag on Malcolm Lowry's Under the Volcano, the closest thing to a hangover in book form that you'll ever find. Yeah, so I'm going to move that on. Hopefully, it finds a good home. I'm also going to get rid of the Faulkner Reader. I like Faulkner okay. He's not one of my guys. I'm not a fanboy of him. If you are, that's cool. Obviously. This has all of the Sound and the Fury, selections from other novels, which I don't understand the point of selections from novels. If you're going to have a bunch of short stories, that's cool. But if you're, binding a bunch of stuff up, give me like 3 or 4 novels or one novel and a bunch of stories. It's just, and I have the Sound and the Fury. I used to have 2 copies of it. I guess I used to have 3, and I got rid of 1, and now I'm gonna get rid of this one. But anyway, that's the yeah. This one, next one is pretty cool, and it is Sensational. This is an art book with kind of cardboard cover, like thick cardboard covers, and everything is in full color. It's a book of Mexican advertising art that I think it's pretty cool, but I only look through it from time to time here. Different pictures of corn, and this is not advertising of the kind that would be in a magazine or newspaper, but the kind of advertising that is painted on the side of buildings so that people going by can see what's going on. This is one for a chicken vendor, I guess. Polleria Carmen, right? And they've got them paired in these interesting ways. So here you have a little chicken singing with a guitar, and then there's a rooster crowing on top of a fountain. It's just, they do such a kind of cool creative things. You have 2 different roasted chickens. Maybe this is James talks himself out of unhauling books. But really, I mean, I'm getting all the pleasure I need out of it right now. If you're, here's a couple. Here in North Carolina, there's a lot of barbecue places that will have, happy pigs or pigs wearing chef's hats on their signs. The pigs don't want to be barbecued, but here the pigs are getting their revenge on these hapless dudes. So anyway. I mean, it's a little dark. I guess it depends on your. Anyway, there's a couple of fish. It's really kind of a beautiful book, but it's an odd shape. And, I probably could just get this out of the library again if I wanted to enjoy leafing through it. Okay, now here's the last one. And it is The Finnegans Wake Experience. This book, I read Finnegans Wake a couple of years ago. I did it very slowly. There were some people on Twitter who were doing a 2-year-long project where they were reading 1 page a day of Finnegans Wake. So I got on board that. But I got to a certain point where I wasn't keeping up with doing it every day, but I found that if I did it once a week, reading 7 pages in a row, once I got into the flow of it, I could kind of go for a while. So after trying for a few months, reading 1 page a day or 7 pages a week, I said I'm just going to read a chapter at a time, and I alternated with other books. So I finished it eventually, but while I was doing that, I got some of the other Finnegans Wake guidebooks of dubious usefulness. I also read this really cool book, The Finnegans Wake Experience, by, what's his name? Roland McHugh. Roland McHugh. This is so strange. And McHugh he read this book, read Finnegans Wake, and kind of got obsessed with it. And he's a very smart man. He has a PhD in grasshopper acoustics. I think is what he said. But listen to what he's doing as he's reading Finnegans Wake and collecting other books about like not just like a skeleton key to Finnegans Wake, which he kind of disdains in here, but these kind of self-published books about like French irregular verbs in Finnegans Wake, really micro studies, and he says, I began to annotate my copy of FW. I transferred information to it in very small writing using a mapping pen. I could actually get 2 lines of writing between every 2 FW lines, and I used 12 different colors of ink to specify different languages. Yeah, so this guy is quite obsessed with it, and at a certain point, he's very excited. I think he lives in England for most of the time that he's working on this. He gets very excited that there's going to be a Joyce symposium held at Trinity College in Dublin. A whole bunch of Joyce scholars from England and America getting together to give papers, and this is great. He says the symposium itself was safely ensconced behind the walls of Trinity College. In its distance from reality, it resembled the district attorney's conference in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. As I sat listening to American professors reading papers which paraphrased the plots of the stories in Dubliners or compared Ulysses with the novels of Faulkner, I sensed a kind of gap. Virtually no one present was Irish, and I was unlikely to learn anything about local color. As far as the newsletter went, most of them had barely heard of it. They read something called the James Joyce Quarterly, a glossy production from Oklahoma, largely devoted to the early Joyce industry. The early Joyce industry. He's by the way, the newsletter is this more obsessive book newsletter that is dedicated to discussing Finnegans Wake. Um, It was impossible to get down to intelligent discussion of FW at any point during the week. People shied off as though talking shop were bad form. Much of the conversation I overheard was of the order, say, how much dough do you make? It's crazy. Anyway, I have a feeling someone watching might want this copy, so I'm probably not going to unhaul for a few days. I usually stack them up and then put them in little free libraries as I walk my dog. That's probably not going to get picked up. If anyone watching is interested and lives in the lower 48 United States, send me an email, and I'll send it to you. It's too good to just toss off, but I'm never going to read it again. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.